Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Monday Coffee Conversation. I've got mine this morning. I hope you've got yours. Let's get into the Word. Today we're going to be using one of the most versatile pieces of equipment that you can find when it comes to doing construction work or any other kind of work that cutting a material needs to be done, whether it be wood or brick or concrete. It fits into all of that. And that's none other than the circular saw. A lot of people call it a skill saw. That's just a brand name of it from years ago, so it's stuck. But they're the same thing, skill saw, circular saw, whichever. But this little saw here, no matter where you go, to a construction site, to somebody's wood shop at home, to anything where there's work like that done, you're pretty much guaranteed to find a circular saw. And one of the main reasons is it's so versatile. You can make regular cuts across a 2x4 if you're framing up a stud wall at a house. If you don't have a miter saw, then you can use the circular saw to make angled cuts on a board. So it comes in handy in a lot of different ways. It cuts a lot of different depths. You can change the blade. Some blades, this one here is made for plywood. It has a lot of teeth. You can put regular blades on there for regular pine boards and things. You can even put concrete and brick blades on there, and even metal blades. So the skill saw is very, very versatile and handy to have. And it's also pretty simple to use. You squeeze the button and you go on. And if you have a line drawn on your board or whatever you're cutting, and you follow it with this guide here, it's pretty straightforward. You just go along with your line, and that's where you're. Now, when it might become a little bit difficult is if you're making a long cut, say the whole length of a piece of plywood or something. And that's when you have a possibility of, even if you're trying to follow your line, you can have a little bit of play with your blade here and there. And when you're going down an 8-foot sheet of plywood, you can start out at one measurement here and be a 1/4 of an inch off on the other end, even though you think you were going straight the whole time. And a 1/4 inch isn't a whole lot in the grand scheme of things, but if you're building a house, and every cut that you make is a 1/4 inch off, it's going to throw things out of whack. So one of the things that people have come up with to help you stay where you're supposed to be when you're making a cut with the skill saw is one of these. And it's called a clamp and cut edge guide. This one here is 50 inches long. So the way it works is you put it on your board and you use this part right here to slide in and out to meet up with one end of your board, and then on the other end you have this clamp, and you lay it down there, you get everything lined up with your mark, and then you clamp it down like this. Now once you have that clamped on there, you can run your saw all along the side of that, the edge of it, and it will guide you and keep your blade straight where it needs to be as long as you need it there. As long as that clamp is, and as long as it's a straight edge, you can make a straight cut as long as the clamp is, as long as you need to be. So it makes things a lot simpler when you're trying to get cuts that need to be really good and square. Now, with your shorter boards, like a 2x4 or a shorter cut, you don't really have to use this because you have a lot less chance of making a mistake. You're going, 3 inches across, 4 inches across, and it's done. But when you're cutting 40 inches across, you're going through a whole lot more time to where you can veer just a little bit, and it may seem straight, but you veer that 1/16th off here, an 1/8 of an inch off here, and before you know it, you've got a board that zigzags up and down. I know, I made several of them just recently. But this guide helps you stay on the path that your blade needs to stay on. Now I'm going through all this to bring up, as usual, something from Scripture. Just like this little clamp and cut edge guide keeps my blade where it needs to be and on the straight way, that's what God does with us. You've got saved, you're walking along, you think you're walking great, but just like a lot of times when I'm making these long cuts on plywood, I think I'm going straight, but I could be veering off one way or the other. And sometimes I don't realize that until it's too late and I've already messed up the board and I'm already done with my cut and there's nothing I can do about it. Well, God will help guide us, just like this clamp edge does, to stay on the path that we are meant to stay on. You know, a lot of times we we really think we're doing good. But without God's guidance, how do we know? Without God's guidance, how do we know how far we can veer this way or that without going completely off track? Now, if you heard Pastor Travis last night, he talked about David and his mistake with Bathsheba. And he mentioned that Nathan, the prophet, came, and that's when David repented. But without that guidance of Nathan, King David probably would have never repented, because he knew he was going crooked, but he didn't really care that much. But Nathan come and give him the news of his punishment. Nathan came and told him to get it right and get back on track right now. And David repented, and Nathan was his guide. That's why a lot of the Psalms is where you'll see scriptures about God being our guide. And I want to share a few with you this morning. Not many, and they're kind of short. And if you're working in a wood shop and you need a bookmark, always a piece of wood laying around somewhere. First, we're going to start with Psalms 25 and verses 4 and 5. And it says, "Show me your ways, O Lord. Teach me your paths. Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation." And in this one, the psalmist is actually asking God, be my guide. You know, he's not just taking it for granted. He's coming right out and asking, God, be my guide. Teach me your paths. Show me your ways. Lead me in your truth and teach me. And then he says, why? For you are the God of my salvation. Flip over just a couple of pages to Psalms 32, verse 8. And God speaking, he says, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. He's telling us right there. That is what a guide does. It instructs and it teaches in the way you should go. If you're going on a hunt in Colorado or Wyoming or somewhere out west in the vast wilderness, and you get a guide, his job is to take you where you need to go, to do it the right way, and to keep you safe. If you go out in the middle of nowhere like this, there's a good chance you could get lost. It's a different type of country than around here. But if you have that guide, his job is to keep you safe and to keep you on the right path to get you where you need to go. Right there it is. I will instruct you and teach you in the way that you should go. Go to another one. We have Psalms 119, verse 105. Everybody knows this one. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. When it's dark outside and you're trying to walk, what do you need? You need some kind of light to light up where you're walking so you know to stay on the right place, to stay in the right direction. We have another one here. Isaiah. Over in Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 21. I like this one. Your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. Whenever you turn to the right hand or whenever you turn to the left. When we start veering off just a little bit from the path that God has laid out for us, he'll speak to us. Come back. Come back, whether you veer off to the right hand or to the left. And the main thing there's no doubt that God will speak to us to get us back on the right path, for he is our guide. But we have to listen. We have to listen. This clamp is here for me to stay on the straight path, to stay straight where I need to be with this saw blade. But if I push against it too hard, or I decide that I want to go too far away from it, then I end up off track. I end up off the path that I'm supposed to be on. They're saying that God will remind us, your ears shall hear a word behind you say, and for all you Star Wars fans, this is the way. Walk in it. Whenever you turn to the right hand or whenever you turn to the left. And then, of course, the best one that I think, and a lot of us that are at Morning Star, because Woody has ingrained it in us so much, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. He shall guide you. So this thing is no good. It's useless. If I clamp it down, I've got it on my mark, got everything perfect, and I decide not to stay with it. See, that's still my decision. That's still up to me to stay along with it. So as good as a guide God is, and as much as he will direct us where we need to go, if we decide to go off on our own way, we're still going to end up off track. We're still going to end up way off from where he had us to be, and it's all going to be out of whack. Just like a piece of plywood if you don't follow where you're supposed to go. We hope you guys have enjoyed this. We hope it's been a blessing. As you go throughout your day, throughout your week, listen for that voice. If you think you're starting to veer off, listen for that voice to tell you, turn to the right or to the left. Get back on track. And if you don't know, ask God, like the other scripture told us. Guide me, Lord. Teach me in your ways and put me on your path. For you are my salvation. We'll see you guys next time on the Monday Coffee Conversation.